Far Cry 5 is without a doubt the biggest Far Cry game of all time, not only in the scope and detail of its in-game world, but in the number of its title. But let's forget about the sizable arsenal of weapons at your disposal that are capable of leveling, what a coincidence, an entire county. Can you beat Far Cry 5 with only a shovel? After picking the easiest difficulty and realizing that I would be playing as one of those guys from the Create-A-Moveset part of the old Smackdown vs. Raw games, the Long Distance Wailing begins with a cutscene showing found footage of Joseph Seed gouging some lucky guy's eyes out. Then we fly towards the church with a cliche group of characters: the woman pilot, the mustachioed sheriff who was about to retire, the no-nonsense US Marshal, and myself, the rookie. For the first time in video game history, the characters I had to follow moved as fast or faster than me. We tried to arrest Joseph. Things went sideways, including the silver chariot we rode in on. I escaped into the woods, picked up a stick, and we enter combat for the first time. I decided right now, in the past, that until I got to a point in the game where I could get my hands on a shovel, I'd use any melee weapon. Realistically, this is just a more restricted version of a melee-only playthrough. In fact, as I would later learn, the shovel is actually more powerful than a baseball bat or pipe. I found the marshal in a house out in the woods. He said some profanities that I might have to censor. He tossed me a gun, and my heart sank. Just like in Far Cry 3, you can't get rid of weapons. You can swap them out, but you can't completely remove the assault rifle or pistol from your inventory. But at the very least, you can keep your melee weapons equipped, so you never really have to worry about accidentally firing a gun. Turns out that even on the easiest difficulty, this introductory combat sequence was more than enough to best me. Even the guys you fight here are capable of rapidly draining your health. If you're looking for a light-hearted way to stroll through Far Cry 5, this is not it. Once the cultists were dealt with, the marshal and I escaped. I temporarily self-imposed some realism on my by pretending that I couldn't hear what the marshal was shouting at me because of all the gunfire. Let me put that another way. I didn't shoot anyone while I was riding shotgun. We rode off into the sunset. He got captured, as did I, and I woke up tied to a bed with a bald man. Sometimes I have dreams about this sort of thing, except he's not some Santa reference here. He explained that the cult formed by Joseph Seed, micromanaged by Jacob Seed, John Seed, and Faith Seed, had taken over Hope County. That's what we call an ironism. The Seeds think they're spreading their infectious Hope seed in Hope County, but they're not. Before heading topside, I snagged myself a shovel, did not much else, and the real Far Cry 5 began. The first task is to liberate Dutch from the cultists so his radio can reach resistance fighters all across the county. Rescue some hostages from a ranger station to get your first taste of freshly squeezed hostage. Learn about this game's big gimmick, guns for hire, that you won't use because they have guns, and we all know how I feel about guns. It's nerf or nothing, but that's not the point. Generally speaking, any sort of secure the area or liberate the outpost mission will be handled the way I'd handle it regardless of any weapon restrictions, sticking to stealth attacks to keep others from sticking their noses in my business. There are some things that can't be handled by a shovel though. Cult shrines, for instance, have gas tanks sealed behind an impenetrable fence and require either a gun or some explosives to destroy. For those kinds of scenarios, I figured only a shovel was in regards to combating killing. Destroying a gas tank with a grenade is fine, as long as it doesn't kill anyone. That's why, as you may throughout this video notice, I ignored a large number of cultist trucks being driven around that could have been blown up for easy resistance points. The first real decision to make is which region to start with. Dutch recommended I start with John's, so that's what I did by setting off for Fall's End. The apples in this game look downright horrid in this game. Not even PlayStation 1 Hagrid would eat one of them. For a brief moment, I considered spending real money to buy silver bars that I could then use to buy optimism, the only shovel in the known universe to leave its victims with a smile. The stats are the same regardless of which shovel you use, so I get it when I get it. On the way to Fall's End, I stopped by the pumpkin patch to rescue an animal. It went rather well, actually. Takedowns are going to be your non-furry best friend when you can only use a melee weapon. You can certainly just my dog skip all your enemies without the little animation, but none of them are a pushover. they won't hesitate to bop you on the nose with the butt of their gun to knock you to the ground. The dog accompanied me for a time. It's pretty much a melee-only follower. Seemed alright, even if it did mostly just stand there and bark while I beat this slippery orange pussy to death with a shovel. Then again, it did stay by my side after I drove directly into a barrel and exploded. Then again, it didn't run through the burning field to hit me with an EpiPen. A lot of this game, because it's a rather lengthy game, will be glossed over. Telling you about every time I stopped by the side of the road to save a hostage would get old fast. In a house closer to Fall's End, I swapped the rifle out for a bow. I wouldn't be using it anyway, so it didn't matter, but for some reason, it made me feel better having a bow instead. After bartering with an outdoor saleswoman, I saved him from a feral beast that turned out to be his dog. I hit his dog right in front of her, killed them both because no witnesses, lost my shovel to a roadside beatdown, and again came to the conclusion pertaining to an aspect of this challenge. If, in the midst of combat, I run out of shovels, I would allow myself to use my fists or whatever melee weapon I can find. The spirit of this challenge is beating Far Cry 5 with only melee weapons. If you disagree, smash that dislike button. A series of unimportant events unfolded. I got my hands on a new shovel and arrived in Fall's End to the worst hero's welcome I've ever seen. This, being one of the main settlements of the game, was packed to the brim with cult members. Something I haven't mentioned yet is how you don't have to be sneaking to get a takedown on someone. They don't have to be staggered or anything like that. Either be behind them or on one of their sides. Hell, you can even get takedowns on guys running straight towards you if they don't have a gun. Using a shovel renders you woefully outmatched by everything you're up against, but it's not an impossible way to play the game. Also, shovels can be used as a throwing weapon, which was a lifesaver on countless occasions, and you get 9 shovels to throw. Once all the maniacs were disposed of, I failed the challenge. Maybe, sort of. A plane has to be destroyed. That can't be done with a shovel. A machine gun had to be used. If the game forces you to use a certain weapon to do something, I don't think it invalidates the run. From there, I began the task of helping this region's inhabitants take the fight to Eden's Gate. That's the name of the cult. So, the thing about this game is that there's a lot of ground to cover. There are more than 50 main story missions alone. I've only gone above 30 minutes for a video's length a handful of times. At a certain point, a video is too long, and I'm not dividing something into 2 videos. To that end, I'll be skimming through a lot of this, so I can get through the entire thing in a reasonable amount of time. If you've played Far Cry 5 and noticed that I didn't talk about something, it's because it wasn't a challenge even when restricted to a shovel. For the most part, all the Liberate the Cult outpost missions are the same. Some outposts will lend themselves towards a stealth melee weapon type of assault. Some will seem to call in endless reinforcements, but if you throw yourself at an outpost enough times, you can clear it with a shovel. The next non-shovel mission came from rescuing the Widowmaker truck. After you rescue it from its grain silo, you must drive it through a series of roadblocks to destroy them, thereby also destroying whoever gets hit by debris. I tried to hit as few people as possible, went through some of the roadblocks cautiously, but I probably still killed a few people. What can you do? On my way to the farm to rescue every abandoned animal in the world, I got ambushed and abducted by John Seed. He near drowned me before the father summoned me to his arms. He said I had a gift. I was hoping it was in that van behind him. It wasn't. The pastor rescued me from John. I fought my way through the Peggies, a slang term for cultist, ran out of shovels, liberated Merle, held off for 2 whole minutes until a friendly whirlybird arrived to extract us from the bad place, and I spent a while driving around looking for a cult tanker. I figured I could just get them as I go. There's no time limit on the mission. I'd find 2 tankers eventually. Another civilian had me retrieve his car, the Death Wish. That's the name of the person in the driver's seat, because seatbelt laws in this county are seemingly non-existent. We cleared out a construction site. I accidentally f***ed up on purpose when I shot this guy in the head with an arrow for his truck. I couldn't get him with a shovel. There was no other way to obtain the truck. Among the most difficult of liberation missions are those where they have hostages. With a silenced gun or bow, you could pop heads like cool kids pop Smarties. But with only a shovel, you've got to be careful. I managed to confirm my prior f*** up by getting this truck driver to drive himself into a tree and kill himself, allowing me to deliver the second tanker and head off to the prison to help the sheriff. The deranged Halo Reach helmet effect cultists are introduced here. They're tough as hell, taking 4 or 5 shovel bonks to kill, but are more susceptible to takedowns. The worst part was seeing my beloved shovels being used against me. That prison mission was a waste of time, as it was in Faith's region, not John's. 15 minutes into the third recording, I performed a baptism of fire, the first of several clutch Nixon missions I did throughout this playthrough. These are just racing challenges with no combat. They can all be done without a shovel. I got abducted a second time, I said yes to him, and I began searching for Deputy Hudson. More stealth combat with a bat instead of a shovel until I found a shovel. I couldn't find Hudson. John stole her away again. I escaped the bunker, beat down a bear with a shovel. If Timothy Treadwell had a shovel, he probably wouldn't have become bear food. And I again had to fail the challenge by destroying a truck. I remembered securing the trailer park being harder the first time I played Far Cry 5 than it was with just a shovel. I ignored all the cultists when I walked the defector to the boat, and at long last, I bought the legendary smiley face shovel. See, that thumbnail wasn't clickbait. Look at that left hand though. Gross. From there, I secured Nick Rye's land and infiltrated John Seed's compound to find Nick's plane. This was one of those outposts that was difficult to clear because I failed at being stealthy. I even died, which is frustrating. You've got to start the entire outpost over again. I don't think, in any of the outposts I decimated, I ever shut off the alarms successfully. After recovering the plane, I flew through a series of circles in the sky, returned the plane, protected Nick's wife from the cultists infecting his land for a second time. Nick always said he was coming in to lay down some fire from his plane, but he barely did. Next came one of the worst missions in the entire game, not only because it has you harming people with something that isn't a shovel, which was a pain in the to do, but it has airborne dogfights. I've never been that good at attacking other aircraft in games. It's why I don't fly helicopters or planes in Battlefield. It's not my thing. Still, I got through it, bounced a shovel off Grace's skull with impressive power, and defended the mausoleum from attacking enemies. One way this game differs from Far Cry 3 is that if you're out of medkits in 3 and you take damage, you can pop the bullet out of your arm, wrap the wound in tape, snap your finger back into place, do whatever to still heal yourself. That is not an option in Far Cry 5. If you're low on health, you better back the f*** up. With another outpost liberated, I performed one final task to earn enough resistance points to anger John, and went to Fall's End to confront John Seed. He carved a nice chunk of man meat off Nicky, the pastor got whacked with a gun twice because it was funny, I blew off a piece of John's ear, shot nothing as I rode to his compound, took to the skies, and died, spawned, hit a tree, burned to death, and engaged in another dogfight, this time with John's plane. Just as unfun as the others. Not much else to say really. His plane went down, I chucked a shovel into his chest cavity, he died, and I made my way to his bunker to rescue Hudson. Not particularly easy. Sometimes I would get overzealous, leading to getting butted with a gun by multiple men at once, keeping me on the ground until I succumb to the butt and pass over to the next world. Considering this was John's most heavily fortified holdout, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Hudson tried to turn me into a pirate, was slow as shit. I released some hostages, killed some guys, destroyed bliss containers, and had a heck of a time opening the silo hatches and surviving until the chopper arrived to rescue me. It didn't help that I'd lost my smile and had to rely on my fists to attack while also being out of medkits and in a room that's in the process of being engulfed in flame. The bunker was no more. I was the hero of Fall's End. Joseph Seed lamented the loss of his brother. I became a cowboy, and I returned to the prison to begin working with the resistance to take out Faith Seed. Each Seed has their own stupid gimmick. John's was the power of yes. Faith's is a drug-induced delirium, and Jacob's is the power of the military mountain man. My first task in helping out the community was heading to Misery to stop the cult from pumping bliss into the water supply. But on the way there, I stopped and liberated an outpost, undetectedly I might add. Then came the first hallucination with Faith. They're fine. Sometimes they drag on longer than I'd like, and they didn't pack the same punch as the ones from Far Cry 3. On the plus side, I got to go cliff diving into a canyon without a parachute and not die. Fun fact, wingsuit gliding into a tree will end your life. Dying cleared my active mission, so I headed to a nearby story marker to see what all the fuss was about. Wasn't the easiest place to deal with. I had shot at a water guy, But despite what I said about outposts earlier, I ran into a foe I couldn't beat, a helicopter. They're either too high or too far away to hit with a shovel, but even if you could hit them, the shovel would bounce off the glass. I'd already failed, and helicopters would need to be destroyed in some instances, so I'd use some throwable explosive to make it take at least some effort. The next mission bothered me. I get it, it's like that plane mission. It's here to introduce you to a mechanic in the game. In this case, hunting. The problem is that hunting with a shovel sucks demon dick. The pronghorns are like lightning, if you could even find them in the first place, and black bears are built like bears. I got lucky when I quickscoped a pronghorn through a bush, had the skins I needed, and put that mission to the side to help out Victor Beaushaw. He plays the funky music and all the angels, them's the bald wearing sweater guys with melee weapons, come swarming to shut it off. It got out of hand. He cranked the knob so hard that it broke, and I had to shut off the speakers manually. I swear to God, every time I die in this game, it feels like a death. It makes the game irritating to play, though that probably says more about me than it does the game. Back at the prison, Dr. Charles sent me to test the angel bait he'd made. In theory, it would let them walking dead all the angels away from settlements. It lured the angels to it, but it also summoned a horde of stone skunks to mate with the cultists. Then, I had to get 3 grizzly bear skins. Kill me. For some reason, one spawned right where I was, so I only needed 2 more. I spent 12 minutes looking for a way to avenge Timothy Treadwell, but found no grizzlies. I was determined to get the skins, but was also annoyed at the lack of hot, middle-aged grizzly bears in my area who all wanted to me. To that end, I removed the cultists who were worshipping at the statue of the Father on Cranberry Mountain, died, and had no real way of destroying the statue without casualties. I couldn't get inside yet, and there was no way to safely bury those inside with a shovel from the ground. An RPG would kill as many people as fate desired, I decided. The tower was stripped down to its nude frame, and I scaled the tower to find Faith Seed's favorite book. The technical airbirds were in the way and shot me on occasion, but after burning the book and tossing it from the tower, I can't be the only one who thinks the fall would put out the flame. I flew from the top of the tower and spent several minutes carefully clearing out the chumps at the water station. It wasn't an outpost, so I have no real proof besides the footage that I don't have enough time to show, but I eliminated every cultist without being detected. Destroyed the pumps in one room, died to the reinforcements, destroyed the second set of pumps, got another visit from Faith that didn't really happen anywhere outside of my own brain. The Marshal was there. Joseph showed me a glimpse at the world of tomorrow. I borrowed a chopper and took to the skies towards the Moccasin River to skin me some teddy bears. I won't waste too much time on this. It took me about 20 minutes to find and kill all 2 bears. As long as you put some effort into it, you can kill the bears with a shovel with relatively few issues. From there, I finally went back to the first objective in this region, reach the Missouri. Clearing it was fine, not easy, not hard, but attacking the boats with a shovel isn't how the game's meant to be played. But destroying them isn't your mission. Let me put it this way, they're there, but they're also out of your purview. Swim past them, put a shovel in the cult VIP's heart, release the hostages, and that mission's over. Clearing out the next outpost was no small task. It was on the more heavily fortified side, and I lacked any medical supplies, and I ran out of shovels, because what the f is planning ahead? Burn the plants with the flamethrower like that one mission in that one game, chase Feeney, a cultist bigwig, to his hideout, bop him on the brain case with your happy face, and experience an incredibly dangerous blackout behind the wheel of a helicopter. What's it called when you go all floppy while flying a helicopter? I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. You can probably think of what it is. Faith was unhappy with my progress towards the liberation of a region of a county in the middle of nowhere, Montana. The Marshal was rowing a boat. That's a BioShock Infinite reference. He wandered off into the make-believe wilderness with the animals. I gave chase, realized that this would look less weird if I hadn't forgotten my 3D glasses, and it turned out that we somehow escaped an imaginary place and made it back to the prison. With the Marshal safe and sound behind bars, I got back to work doing various missions for the local pedestrians. First up, rescuing an old woman's feral pussy, Cat. The cougar's name is Peaches. My grandparents have a dog named Peaches. One time she busted through their car's back windshield when my grandma fell asleep at the wheel and flipped her car. Good times. Maybe. I wasn't there, I wouldn't know. Next, I liberated a few outposts. Nothing crazy or all that different from any of the others. Going quiet, quarterback a shovel into a sternum or two. I also started searching for Lady Drubman's stolen helicopter. Because it's a video game, hers will be the third and last chopper you locate. Now this made me mad. I had to kill the pilot but for 15 minutes. Anytime I got near him, he'd take off and circle around, never landing. Sometimes he'd go land in the car place next to the cliff, but then I would wingsuit to him as fast as I could. He'd take off again. Even after descending from the cliff as quickly as I could, his hand was touching the helicopter when I put a shovel through his spine. After returning the bird, I flew to a gas station to become the hacker I was always meant to be. Then I ran out of shovels, accidentally lit a guy on fire, and had to start the onslaught again. This game has some of the most advanced AI to ever be in a video game. The game told me to have Drubman go with me, what with it being her plane I'm using, to destroy a few floating halfway submarines. The rudely tried to go with me, as I stole her helicopter despite having already dismissed her. I gave her a left and a right fist bump to the back of the head with the brass knuckles I bought, followed the boat convoy, and this was too much for me. I can suspend my disbelief better than most people. I liked the last 4 seasons of Dexter, but even I couldn't believe that those boats didn't see or hear me. I had to use that helicopter to destroy 20 bliss containers. You can't use a shovel for it, so I might as well use what the game wants me to for half of them. I used a remote explosive and a few well-cocked grenades to destroy the remaining containers. Trust, I me knows the English big good smart. It's cocked, not cooked. With bliss no longer being produced at that particular site, or stored, whatever, I liberated the barren lumber mill without being detected, and started doing whatever I could to get the few remaining resistance points I needed to face Faith. Some I got from destroying another set of gunboats, another I got from liberating the outpost at Eden's convent, and then defending that convent from an incoming wave of cultists who were stupid enough to fall for my helicopter trap that used the power of theoretical magnets to draw them to the chassis of the helicopter. I had to use a pocket explosive to coax the enemy bird out of the sky. There was no other way to get it down. See, that's what I meant earlier when I said that thing. To get the remaining points, I killed the fabled Judge Bear lurking in the caves. How the Hope County court system will recover from this, I can't say. What I can say is that bear was the hardest thing to kill in the entire game, and it wasn't even close. After another clutch Nixon mission, the end of Faith began. The Marshal shot George Costanza, then stored a bullet in the roof of his mouth. Clear the prison again. Someone I don't care about got sentimental about the death of someone else I don't care about. Faith stole the sheriff, took him into the bliss world, and she can fly. You're not supposed to be able to use a melee attack on the flying Faith clones, but if you run and jump and attack, you can. It's safer than throwing a shovel at all of them, because sometimes you don't get the shovel back. She fell asleep in the river. Her life essence transferred itself to a flower that I killed by plucking it out of the ground. The sheriff fought the urge to hang himself just as we all do every day, and I had to get through Faith's bunker unarmed. Not the easiest thing in the world. The guys here have automatic weapons that do a significant amount of damage when they're all shooting at you at once, and if you get 2 or 3 of them beating you down at once, you're pretty much done for. Blow up a few central pumps, rampage your way through the bunker while being eternally grateful for your brass knuckles, and then remember that if you get a takedown, which is what you want to avoid taking a lot of damage, it actually makes no difference if you have the brass knuckles or not. The stupid butterfly girl was no more. Bliss has been removed from this region. Father Seed revealed that he put his faith inside Faith, who was not actually his sister, so I guess that's alright. As for me, well, I traveled north to end the ginger calling himself Jacob, with my first stop being the already liberated barren lumber mill. A dish served cold was the story mission I started with in Jacob's region. There's a nice little story to be told in this mission about the hometown hero known as the Cook, who starves children and feeds them burnt bits of their parents. The mission itself is liberating groups of hostages without being detected. The more open the area, the harder it is. One of the hostages died, oh well. The Cook got a shovel in the back. I spent my 21 skill points on maxing out my health and making weapons sturdier, helped defend a friendly outpost, chased down a prisoner truck, and this scum of a game said the truck got away when I could still see it. Another clutch Nixon mission, this time using the wingsuit, a side mission involving catching a legendary fish that I vowed to never even attempt. and I brought out the heavy artillery, the shovel launcher. It's still a shovel, just being fired at speeds capable of breaking the sound barrier. Somehow Jacob's goons managed to snag me while I was in the middle of a mountain climbing adventure. He's using home movies to brainwash all he abducts, with his mantra being apes together strong or something to that effect. The few outnumber the many in spirit is the gist of his message. He's also got this special music box that fries your brain. I was never sure what it was actually doing. Then you're given a series of rooms to get through and an assortment of weapons that I didn't use because it's not a shovel or my fist. For the most part, anyone you meet in here can be defeated with a takedown, as long as you're near them. That could have been because of a perk I got that extends the takedown range. It was probably that. Awake from the fever dream, I continued helping Eli and the Whitetails, the resistance group in Jacob's region. The visitor center was a little rough, not really because of the layout or the enemies, but because it took me so long to find the last militia hostage. The remaining hostages were being held at Hawkeye Tunnel. I was given 2 ways to attack, stealthily and from above, or a brute force assault on the front entrance. Naturally, given the restrictions of this challenge, I went crazy on those cult and charged in headfirst, shovel in hand. Yeah, the helicopters turned the hostages into Swiss cheese, prompting me to perform death from above. Only one of the hostages made it out alive, but 50% casualties is an acceptable number to me. I then destroyed a box atop a tower, liberated an outpost, attempted a front flip for style on this ATV, but it was destined to fail. Those only work on motorcycles, and I scoured the land for a couple radio towers armed with jammers. Time consuming because they're pretty far apart, but helicopters are free, so it's not a real issue. Now, finding Briggs at the hotel, that was an issue. First, I had no idea where Briggs was in the first place. I had to look it up on the Yahoo. Second, so many guys were sent to kill me. Now, in the game's defense, there are mortars and mounted machine guns and boxes with grenades, as well as all the weapons at your disposal. But with only a shovel, this was rough. I want to say it's 4 different waves of enemies sent at you. The first one is 2 trucks full of guys. The second is a pair of fully loaded surf motorcycles and a helicopter. Then guys start coming in from the entryway along with snipers. I died multiple times, failed the mission when I ran to kill a sniper with a shovel, which was apparently out of bounds. It was unpleasant as all hell. Probably the hardest outposty defend the area section in the entire game. But every mother knows that brute force in the face of unimaginable pain will reward a loud and wet result. The screams of people as they die and blood all over the place. I blacked out in the sky again. There's a second character in this game named Peaches. That's odd. Big Daddy Father showed me a picture of his wife on his arm. I honestly couldn't even tell it was a person. He revealed that he killed his daughter. Didn't see that coming. And I had to race to the target again. Having done this before, it wasn't too difficult. I knew I didn't have to kill every person I saw. I still did it anyway, but I didn't have to. Back in the real world, I continued to aid the resistance by searching a couple cabins for stashed weaponry. Of course, neither were just out in the open. The first one was hidden in a hard-to-miss underground bunker. The second was down in the Jello cellar. And the third one gone and went mobile. The green mist-breathing who had it had to die. But I couldn't shoot him, so I tried to ram him off the road into a tree or a rock or into oncoming traffic. Hard to do when it's ATV on ATV violence. Then he got off his ATV like a jack. I stuck him with a smile, retrieved the stash, returned the supplies, liberated an outpost for some relatively easy resistance points, and flew across the county to a Gene Shalit to kill 2 Chosen. The Chosen are like the special forces of Eden's Gate, supposedly. Some cult VIPs, excluding a takedown, take 3 to 4 bonks to kill. The Chosen weren't much different from them in my experience. Then I blew up the building, paying no regard to anyone who may be inside. I was pretty sure everyone who mattered was outside with a smiley face shovel in their hand. Context clues in the next cutscene and dialogue that came after led me to believe I'd been held by Jacob for about a week without food. Another sacrifice the weak section, more troublesome than the others for some reason, not entirely sure why. Maybe the enemies were made more aggressive or something. They seemed more eager to hit me with their guns than they did the first 2 times. Peaches gave me the Bioshock railing treatment. I woke up outside for like the 15th time and had a hell of a bit of a time, liberating this outpost in particular. It shouldn't have been anything crazy, and was most likely made more difficult by the sky dual-wielding helicopters against me. I subconsciously chose to ignore them and whack and smack until it was done. I faced my biggest fears by catching a fish, stuffing it somewhere fishy to keep it safe, and tracked down future McDonald's mascot, Cheeseburger, the diabetic bear. Cheeseburger and I laid waste to all the cultists trying to abduct him. I smacked his ass, found out I am just god-awful at using guns to shoot targets in this game. Tried using an automatic, but that didn't help. MP40. F***ing German trash. The next obstacle came in the form of Ubisoft being Ubisoft by f***ing up the map. You go to Fort Drubman on the map. There's a cabin there, on the map, but it's not there. I found it eventually, spoke to a man about his political campaign, and rode with his slow son to a watchtower. Maybe I meant slow in the head. Maybe I meant slow behind the wheel. Take it however you will. I rescued his daddy's favorite truck, managed to lean out the window and hit a guy with my shovel launcher, shot nobody else, and we both died. I considered it a worthy trade-off. He dies with me. But the game did not. Because the game all but explicitly tells you to man the turret, I manned the turret, killed whoever got in my line of sight. His father was elated to see his truck, but heartbroken that his son was still alive. I did some totally normal political haggling by wiping out a dozen or so guys in an effort to rig the election in Drubman's favor, scraped together the remaining 300 resistance points by performing Klecznikson missions, and it was time to end Jacob's seed. And the Lord said, "Lo and behold, a red room, and the people in it, bull." I failed the sacrifice section a number of times. There are more guys, they're better equipped. I have only my fists, there's less time, and you get less extra time by killing people. More than anything else, I was just tired of having to do this for the 4th time. Turns out the final target was none other than Eli. He had the distinct honor of being the only person I killed with a gun in this game, and had 6 beacons to destroy in the Squidward stream level. The dogs are annoying and imaginary, so their deaths shouldn't weigh too heavily on your conscience. The only thing of note here is that you need to completely remove all non-bird life from each beacon before you blow it up. Then there's the mountain Jacob's seed sits on. Let me tell you, that was precarious as all hell. It was immediately apparent upon my death that a frontal assault was not an option. Too many things shooting at me from too many different directions with not enough cover. Not feasible. However, sneaking is always allowed. Head off to the left, along the road, quietly run between the rocks and various trees, and you can make it a good way up the mountain without being detected. I tried to shovel launcher Jacob from behind cover. It didn't work, so I ran like an angry dachshund up that mountain, ignoring everything I could, climbing the rocks until I got to Jacob's seed. I used his body as a display case for one of my shovels. A 3rd seed fell before me, and I had to clear out another bunker. It was all worth it for this glorious kill. I can't believe that wasn't an achievement. Luckily, for everyone named Mitten Squad, Jacob's bunker wasn't bad. I sneaked my way through most of it, rescued Pratt, I'm pretty sure that's his name. He had his little moment, we escaped, and with all 3 regions of Hope County liberated, I returned to the church, where it all began, to finally confront Joseph's seed. I could not have possibly made a more badass entrance to the game's final moment. Jumping from a helicopter, flying in a wingsuit to the church, and landing at its door with a parachute. Seed somehow managed to capture, like everyone I'd worked with, to save this county. If he could do that so easily, I have no idea why I was ever any kind of a threat. He gave me the option to walk away. I refused. A tornado of epic and imaginary proportions surrounded the church, and I had to beat the devil out of my friends, revive them, relive horrible memories of being revived in Battlefield 4, and defeat Joseph's seed. Then more brainwashed friends show up as the area expands. The good guys fight the bad guys, knock them out, bring them back to the light, and then again a 3rd time. It wasn't my favorite ending combat sequence to any game, but I thought it was, if nothing else, a good way to showcase how it took everyone working together to stop Eden's Gate. And it wasn't a QuickTime event, so there's that. All of us together fought back Joseph's seed. I stuck a shovel in his throat, and in his final moment of madness, the unthinkable happened. He was right. The collapse was upon us. Nuclear war broke out. Apocalyptic fire ravaged the face of the county as we raced towards Dutch's bunker. It was so nice to see the end of the world in a game that isn't Fallout. Then I did a boo-boo when I flipped the truck. The game forgave me. We rode towards the bunker. A falling tree struck the car. Joseph Seed dragged me to the bunker with the final cutscene, mirroring the beginning of the game when Dutch rescued me. I bet some f***ing YouTube brainlets felt like geniuses pointing that out in their video essays. In the end, it was just Joseph Seed and I alive in the bunker. He told me we would repopulate the earth together when the dust settled, and I did not beat Far Cry 5 with only a shovel. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.